7-0. We're on to delegation requests. 6.1, Emily Power, respecting justice for tenants displaced by Metrolink building demolition and the need for affordable housing. Good morning. Just a reminder, Delegate Power, 5 minutes, and questions will follow if there are any. Thank you and good morning.
Good morning. My name is Emily Power. I have volunteered as a tenant organizer on several campaigns in Hamilton. I was a member of a group called King Street Tenants United, which brought together Metrolink's tenants facing eviction and neighborhood supporters to advocate for compensation and rehousing support. Until recently, I lived close to the LRT line myself, renting a unit on Sanford, 1 block south of King. Metrolink's planned to acquire 90 properties to accommodate track and station construction, with most building demolitions concentrated in the section of King Street between Wellington and Ottawa. Acquisitions began in 2018 and evictions followed soon after. Reports from tenants at the time confirmed people were given differential treatment and little compensation. The Spectator reported one tenant at King and Holton was given only $200 towards moving costs. In another case, Metrolinx paid first and last month's rent towards the tenant's new apartment and moving expenses. This is still less than the minimum required under the Residential Tenancies Act for evictions for demolition. When knocking on doors, we heard many stories of tenants being pushed out by their original landlords before Metrolinx took over. In these cases, tenants received no rehousing support. We suspect Metrolinx offered property owners more for vacant possession in order to avoid responsibility for the dirty work of displacement. King Street Tenants United formed in the summer of 2018. I wish we had started earlier, as many evictions had already taken place. We door knocked and flyered the route. We organized tenant meetings at the local union hall, the mosque, community centers, and parks. We taught people their tenant rights, connected them with their neighbors, gave them the confidence to remain in their homes as long as possible, and supported them in asserting a set of demands and negotiating with Metrolinx. Soon, Metrolinx increased its standard offer to include assistance finding an apartment, first and last month's rent, moving costs, utility reconnection fees, a transit pass, and a rental subsidy for 1 year, the difference between the current rent and the new apartment rate. This was an improvement, but fell short of what we asked and provided only short-term stability for tenants on fixed incomes. People wanted a subsidy for the duration of LRT construction, 1-for-1 replacement of social housing units along the LRT route, and a right of first refusal to move into these units. What were people to do when the 12-month rent subsidy ran out? The subsidy has long expired for anyone who received it in 2018 or 2019. Many have likely fallen behind on rent and faced eviction, and some may be homeless now. How many people were forced out of their homes for the LRT, and how many rental units were demolished? We conducted a survey to estimate this, working from the Metrolinx acquisition list. We walked the route, knocked on doors, talked with residents and business owners. We counted mailboxes and hydrometers. We counted 168 rental apartment units, 12 single-family houses, and 72 businesses. These numbers are much higher than what Metrolinx staff have reported. We suspect Metrolinx is not including households pushed out prior to Metrolinx taking possession. I'm still in touch with many tenants who were evicted by Metrolinx. They have received no follow-up communication since the eviction agreement was signed, no attempt to check in and see where they are living and if they need additional support. At this point, the least Metrolinx and the City of Hamilton can do is reconnect with these people. Their rent subsidies should be extended for the duration of LRT construction. Leftover land purchased by Metrolinx should not be sold to condo developers, but instead donated to social housing providers. Metrolinx should be required to give a full accounting of the number of apartments demolished and tenants displaced, including before they took possession. Everyone displaced should have the opportunity to move back to a social housing unit built on the corridor. Planning for LRT dates back at least 15 years. We had all of this time to put together a plan. Build social housing units for displaced tenants to move into. Bake in tenant protections and rental unit replacement policies in upzoning plans. Negotiate a public land banking policy with Metrolinx. Create a municipal apartment building acquisition plan for buildings in the LRT corridor neighborhoods. Increase municipal funding for legal aid lawyers and tenant organizers. None of this happened. In the absence of a housing plan, LRT has become the primary agent of gentrification and displacement in the lower city, pushing working class people out of the few remaining affordable neighborhoods. I'm almost finished. Dozens of tenants have lost their homes, and hundreds more, they've lost their homes to Metrolinx, and hundreds more to condo developers and landlord investment companies. The announcement of LRT and the city's upzoning plan increased property values overnight. Metrolinx and the city should act quickly to address past harms and stem the tide of future gentrification. This concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Delegate Power. Any questions for the delegate? Seeing none, thank you again for your presentation this morning. On to 7.